Hi, this is Evan from Enlightened Workshops, and today I'm talking about what a miserably depressed person I was and how I got out of that. But first, if you're a 12-step type person and you're here and you're checking this out, I have a free fourth step workshop with a very beautiful, if I may say so myself, downloadable four-step resentment form. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out down below. But back to the matter at hand. So yeah, I would say I was a very depressed person all the way through 35. I'm not sure where it happened. I don't know that I was a depressed kid. I was a terrified kid and anxious. And so there was a lot of depression, a lot of like feeling unworthy. And it was really in my 20s, my mid 20s, where I got pretty miserably depressed. And I was pretty miserably depressed till I was 35. I remember at 35, I would wake up and I would sort of be crying from the moment I woke up. And it was so hard to get out of bed. I had to drag myself out of bed. And, the sort of key moment in that whole story was I was lying there in bed and I said to myself, I said, God does not want me lying here in bed miserably depressed. And a voice came to me and the voice said, how do you know? And that really struck me and I stopped. And at that moment, I just kind of gave in to the depression. And somehow that hearing that voice helped me just to sort of stop fighting it. I'd been fighting the depression my whole life. And I discovered that I was not depressed at all, that depression had just been this blanket that I put over everything, this vague feeling of feeling terrible all the time. And really what all of that was I was terrified and I was enraged. And it was all directly at my father, at my dad. I was terrified because as a kid, I was always afraid that he was going to kill me. And I was enraged and I wanted to kill him. And, I haven't ever really been depressed the same ever since I let that go and stopped fighting it. And it's funny now that I sort of have a career helping people walk through these things and seeing the power of surrender and certainly surrendering against these incredibly powerful feelings that are too much for us. I look back now and I go, gosh, what a moment of grace, because I didn't understand it then the way that I understand it now. Now I have a much better grasp on it. And I can see that I was doing the process that I'm kind of living now. And it's great to be living it, So I would have days where I would feel down, and it might even take a day or two to get out of it. But I sort of learned not to fight it, and so I haven't really dealt with depression in any serious way. From 35, I'm 57 now. For the last 22 years, 4.5 years ago, I hit a horrendous bottom. That I talk about quite frequently, and those were some of those feelings. It really was a lot of self-hatred. That came. And since that, there was a huge shift and an awakening that happened 4.5 years ago. And I've walked through a lot of different feelings, but not so much the sadness. And this last 3 weeks, month, that sort of sadness, those depressive feelings have sort of come back. And, it's interesting to sort of watch them and be with them now that I'm in such a different place. They're always challenging to handle, but like the other day I woke up and I was just miserably depressed. And the difference between now and 22 years ago is I allowed those feelings to be there. I walked through them. I sat with them for an hour and a half. And somehow on the other side of just being with those feelings, and I talk about being with those feelings and kind of teach that and show how to do that on this channel and in my workshops. And, I got up and the rest of my day was light and fairly productive, which is kind of a miracle, to take that, to spend an hour and a half with that energy instead of spending 10 years. So I've learned that energy is not to be feared. And there's something else happening, and I'm going to do another video where I sort of talk about those feelings and what's under it. The next video we'll talk about what those feelings underneath that depression were and are. But I think that's enough of an idea. The basic premise here, the important note in all of this is to get out of the depression, it's to not fight it. It's to not resist it. It's to give into it. And that's what it says, in the big book. And that's the message of the 12-step programs, which is admitting complete defeat. So anyway, I leave you with that thought. And I hope you're getting some value out of these videos. And I look forward to talking to you next time. Cheers.